Hey, let's talk listings. Probably something like 70% of the work that we do is listings. There's a lot of times where just, because of the relationship with the seller, an agent wants to be able to talk about the digital work they're doing. And so that's when we get called in to be like, hey, I need some numbers. I need to be able to prove that I'm doing my best to market this property. So listing packages are something that we get a lot of feedback on from agents for, there's a lot of options. How do I know which to choose? There's different budget levels. How do I know which one's the right for me? And so the purpose of this video is to really go over 3 different topics. First, let's talk about the things that are standard with all of our listing packages. This is by default going to be included. 2, let's talk about the different tiers, the different price points. When does it make sense to pay more? When does it make sense to pay less? I think both of those are true at times. And the last thing is let's go over enhanced targeting. Enhanced targeting we rolled out sort of in February of 2021 and really was in response to a lot of agent feedback we were getting. And it's really sort of caught fire recently as agents are starting to realize the stories they can tell once they add this onto their campaigns. So we'll get into the details, I promise, and kind of give you a quick walkthrough of here's what you use and when. And I'm really hopeful. I think you'll get out of this a really clear picture of what to use and when. Cool? Let's get into it. Let's get into the things that are standard with all of our listing packages. There's a couple of things that are good for you to know. First is that as part of the campaign flight schedule, it will run for 4 weeks. Not any less, not any more. It's going to, by default, go for 4 weeks. Many times agents decide not to renew. They feel like that's enough. Great, it's already going to be turned off. Sometimes agents say, hey, this is sort of the type of property where I need to keep that running. I want to renew, keep it running. Cool, we'll have that conversation. But a really sort of frequent scenario, especially in today's market, is what happens if the property goes under contract, but I'm sort of I signed up to promote this property for a month. What happens then? You really have 2 options, one which is less common, one which is more common. The less common option is that an agent decides to take the assets they already have from design and just put like an under contract banner on it. And some agents kind of like this approach because it allows them to be able to show people who might have seen an ad for the home for sale. Now they get to see it under contract with your name on it, kind of showing that you're really kind of moving property. So some agents will sort of opt for that. Not a whole lot, I would say. It's not as common. Much common scenario is the agent says, you know what, let's pack this up. The property's under contract. I want to pause my campaign. And whatever budget is left sort of remaining, I want to apply it towards the next campaign. So imagine, for example, we're halfway through our 4 weeks. We're at week 2. Agent reaches out to us or the marketing advisor says, hey, let's pull the plug. And we now have half of the budget that we can use towards the next listing. And there's no sort of shot clock, right? That next listing that you could send us is either tomorrow, next week, next year, whatever. We just kind of keep it as a credit on our books. And then whenever you run your next campaign, we apply it towards that one, which is really helpful. The second thing that comes standard with all of our listings is that we give you a reporting dashboard. So back in the day, what we used to do is give you manual reports. We would run them, schedule them, and like sort of set them to you. And then agents would, all of a sudden be like, hey, Hugo, I've got a meeting tomorrow morning with the seller. I would love to have that report a little bit early. And we're always kind of chasing our tail trying to get these reports to agents because they would have meetings. And eventually it was like, can't we just make this so it's automated? Why shouldn't it act more like the Compass marketing platform, which is amazing? And so what we came up with was sort of real-time dashboards. And so when you launch your campaign, the day after the campaign launches, my team, which is amazing at follow-up because I drill this into them, they will send you an email with a link to the report dashboard. You click on that link, your browser opens up, and you see the metrics on how many people we're reaching every day, how many people are clicking on the ad that they're seeing, what type of people are clicking on the ad, what is the household income data that we're getting from Google. All of that is included in the reporting dashboard for all of our packages. So it gives you a really great sense of what's going on with the campaign without having to be like, hey, poking us, like, hey, I need a new report. It's always there for you. Some agents decide to share it with their seller because they want to. Some say, this is a good tool for me. I don't need to share it with my seller. Sometimes we even get the request, hey, I want to send this to my seller, but I don't want them knowing how much I'm spending on it. Can you just remove the cost data? We can absolutely do that. So just let us know. Again, so those are the 2 things that come standard with our listing packages. 1 is the fact they're going to run for 4 weeks, but you have some flexibility in case it goes under contract. And 2, a really cool reporting dashboard that we made sort of update all the time, dozens of times each day. And it looks really cool. It looks techy. It looks kind of sexy. I do say so myself. So this is 2 things that come standard. Cool? So let's talk about the different tiers of our listing packages. We get a lot of feedback on like, hey, it's a little bit confusing. How do I know what to do when? But let's kind of quickly roll through them. First off, we have what we call our starter plan. This is, if this is your first time running a campaign with us, you start with starter. It's there for a reason. It's kind of cheap, and we make it that way because we want you to go through the motions of like, okay, what do I need to give you? How do I do the targeting? You're limited to 3 geographies. You're hearing 3 geographies. You're like, what in the world does that mean? Does that mean zip codes? Does it mean neighborhoods, cities, metro areas? What do you need? It's up to you, really. We'll take any of them. If you decide to give us 3 zip codes, we'll run with it. You give us LA, Miami, New York, we'll run with it. It's really up to you and what you think where we'll likely find a buyer. What I will say is that the wider you go, typically the better the results for the campaign. Think about this more from the angle of Google, right? If you say, hey, I only want to target the residents of this neighborhood versus the residents of this large metropolitan city, well, when you're getting really, really specific, they're going to want to charge you a premium because you're getting super specific. So the wider you can go with your targeting, the better the campaign does. And by better, I mean it's like it's cheaper. You're going to be reaching a lot more people. You're going to get a lot more people to the listing page. So with our starter campaign, you get 3 sort of geographies max. If you move up a level from starter, you get to what we call standard. Standard is the ability to target 6 geographies, 6 zip codes, 6 neighborhoods, 6 whatever you want to call them. You get to target 6 of them. This is by far our tied for most popular package because that's kind of the right price point, the right number of geographies to target. One step up from that is what we call our plus. What's different about plus is you get to add your YouTube video. So I know a lot of agents are already springing for the a video of the listing, and they're getting that from the videographer. And it's like, okay, why not turn those into YouTube ads? It's very simple for us to do, and it's effective at being able to drum up traffic to that listing on YouTube. We won't get into the details of the mechanics, but just know that for that package, the difference between standard and plus is basically we just added the ability to target those same geographies, those 6 that you gave us, but now we're also using YouTube ads when people who are interested in luxury real estate in those places that you're targeting are going on YouTube. Before the YouTube video shows, they're seeing an ad for the listing. And after 5 seconds, they can decide, hey, not relevant, skip ad. We don't pay for that. We only have to pay for the view when someone gets to 30 seconds. And when someone gets to 30 seconds, guess what else happens? They now got counted as a view of the YouTube video. So by the end or the middle of your campaign, you're gonna be able to shoot that YouTube video with the listing to the client and be like, yo, check it out. Your listing has 2,000 views on YouTube, 5,000 views, whatever the number is. So it's really cool to be able to do that. So one step above plus is what we call luxury. This is typically agents who have a multi-million-dollar listing and they're like, I want whole hog. I want it all. Give it to me. What do you got? We do 1, unlimited amount of geographies you can target. However wide you want to go, we can support that. 2 is we target your sphere. So basically what we do is we take an export. You export it, you send it to us, of your Compass CRM or whatever you use for CRM, and we basically target only the devices tied to those email addresses. How we do that is another video, but just know that it's less about, it's kind of like how to find a buyer in my past clients, but more I want, as part of this really marquee listing, I want to show all of my old clients that this is amazing listings, I'm doing some great work. And so it's being able to show your your past clients this amazing listing that you have. The other thing we allow you to do is geofencing. Again, won't get into it, but imagine being able to target physical spaces that you think are relevant to this listing. For example, let's say you have a listing that is a couple blocks away from a golf course, right? Wouldn't it be great to be able to target the phones at that golf course with your property? That's amazing. And the last thing we do is we throw in the ability to do those YouTube ads. So very likely if you have a listing that's a couple $1 million, you're gonna have a really great listing video. We're going to promote the listing video to the areas that you target. So that's a breakdown of the first 4. The last one is probably our least sort of common one, but it sometimes serves a purpose. We call it sort of property relaunch. It was meant more for a property that's been sitting in the market and we want to get it in front of the most qualified audience we can, and we want to put this on websites that have listings on them. So imagine things like realtor.com, things like homes.com, even stuff like Wayfair where people are buying furniture. We want this in front of buyers, and so it's the ability to be able to say, where every other package we have is targeting people based on where they live, and it's typically affluent areas. Wherever they go on the internet, we want our ad to show. This one is like, I want the ad only to really show on places where buyers are spending their time, which is listings and sort of like furniture websites, stuff like that, like Overstock, Wayfair, stuff like that. So that is a quick-ish, not really, recap of our 5 different listings and kind of where to go for each. I would say, just as a reminder, the most common place where we see agents spend their time is in that standard one, and plus. If you have a really great listing video, take advantage of it, put some YouTube ads behind it. Cool? That's 5 different listing packages. Hope that was helpful. Okay, so let's talk about enhanced targeting for our listing packages. This one was a direct result of agents kind of really harassing us, being like, hey, I need to talk strategy. I need to find a way. I've got a listing that is literally blocks from this major hospital. I know for a fact the buyer of this property is going to be a doctor that works in that hospital, or someone related to healthcare, maybe their administrator, whatever. They work at that hospital. That's a lot of who's in these units, or sort of in this neighborhood. How do we get this in front of people who work in healthcare? And we kind of went back and forth and tried to find ways to be able to do this. We found a solution and said, can we do this at scale? Finally, what we came up with is enhanced targeting. Be prepared to be a little bit creeped out. Warning. One of the things that we're now able to do, part of the Google ecosystem, Google knows so much about everyone, you and me together, whether it's Gmail, whether it's what we're searching in Google search, whether it's the videos we're watching on YouTube, whether it's the fact that every website on earth basically has Google Analytics installed that's tracking everyone coming through there. They do a really, really great job of being able to track who everyone is and what they're into, including the websites they're visiting. Enhanced targeting is our ability to target people based on the websites they visit and the apps installed on their phone. Imagine Google has Android operating systems. So everyone who doesn't have an iPhone has an Android, and Google basically is installed on the back end of it. They're seeing everything that's happening. So the way we use this, practical examples, is imagine you have that listing near your hospital, and you say, I want to target doctors. Well, guess what? Why can't we target people who are visiting medical, like academic journals? Why can't we target people who have X-ray apps on their phone, the type of stuff that doctors use, right? When they're like learning about organs and all this stuff, they want to be able to see stuff. It's that ability to get super granular about professions, right? Imagine you want to target people who are C-level executives at startups. Why can't we target people who are reading the Harvard Business Review? People who have the Concur app on their phone used for expense reporting, right? They want to be able to take receipts of business meals and be able to upload them. We know so much about them through the apps on their phone, through the website they're visiting. It allows us to get super, super specific. And the way that this really kind of just flourishes is when an agent is talking to a seller and they're talking about who they think is the profile of the person who's going to buy this property. Many times there's certain features of the home that you're like, oh, it's an amazing wine cellar. The person who's going to buy this house for sure is going to love wine. Or it's got an amazing, like, a 10-car garage. The person who buys this is a car fanatic. It's the ability to say, I have a pretty good idea. I want to target not just by geography. Everything else that we've talked about is really sort of targeting people who live in these places and have an interest in luxury real estate. It's kind of broad, but it's relevant. Here we're saying, I know much more about them. I know they're likely a doctor or a lawyer or they're in finance. And so I want to be able to target them based on their online activity and be able to say, I'm getting this home in front of the right people. That's enhanced targeting in a nutshell. Like I said, it's kind of creepy, but if you have a pretty good idea for who the buyer is, there is no better story to tell a seller than to be able to say, guess what I'm doing with digital? It's not just a Facebook ad. It's us being able to target people based on what they're doing online and getting that in front of people using that Google brain that knows everything about us. It's super amazing, super insightful, and we've seen it work time and time again where people are just astounded that, one, we can do this, and two, we keep getting really good feedback on like, yes, this is the audience I wanted to be in front of, and the calls that I'm getting, when I am getting calls, it's not guaranteed, by the way, but when they do happen, it's related to the targeting that we're doing. So it's really fantastic. I would say it's a surcharge on any package that we're doing. From the cheapest to the most expensive package, you can just add on an enhanced targeting. I would say 50-50. Half of people say, hey, this is relevant, I can use it. The other half say, hey, this is just sort of a middle of the road home. It's not like something super specific. I can get away without using it. I'd say go for it. It's there if you need it, but I wouldn't say it's mandatory for every sort of package or every listing. It's more of an optional, but sometimes it makes sense. Cool. I hope that makes sense. Again, reach out to us, reach out to your marketing advisor if you have any questions on specifics, but I'm hoping that that's a pretty good sort of navigational tool for, okay, what are the things that are probably what I'm looking for and how does this all work? That should be helpful. But again, let us know if it's not. We're here for you. All right? Cool.